Hey all, we are live here again with show number 6. This is Art of the Genre and 13th Warlock. I'm Scott, and we've got Hal over there for 13th Warlock, and we're going to talk today about the game we like to talk about, which is Fast. And we're going to talk about experience, which is the more people play the game, I think the more questions come up concerning experience. And then I can explain kind of my views on experience and why I did the system the way I did it. And then we can talk about some of the things that we've had experiences at our own table, and Hal can talk to you about some of those too, and some of his solutions that he look at when we're just gaming the system itself and how you can modify things. Is that right, Hal?
Yeah. You well first I want to say I like the system. Um it's a step away from systems that I've been more accustomed to in Dungeons and Dragons, in Palladium systems, where you're looking at you need thousands of experience points to walk through, hundreds of thousands of experience points, and you see even level 12 taps up into the millions of experience points
Millions.
to
Yeah,
move up
there's
through
a
the levels. Where fast is much different. You are earning just the numbers are smaller. Like everything else with fast, you took out the extraneous stuff and you gave people the stuff that they need. Without a bunch of the extra hangers on there. So you're talking about experience gains at level 25, level or 25 experience points, 50 experience points. You have these smaller benchmarks versus 2,000 experience points, 4,000 experience points, eight, and down the chart. So it's a different way of looking. It's a way that a lot of people are unaccustomed to looking at an experience progression system. And even to say nowadays, and I guess maybe this started with Piazzo and the adventure paths and whatnot, or it might have even been going on before that. But there's a lot of people running games out there that have done away with experience points completely and are just going through a progressional thing. Like at this point in the adventure, the adventurers need to be fourth level. So boom, you're fourth level. When you move on to the next challenge, they need to be fifth level to handle that challenge. So, regardless of experience points, you hit this benchmark, you're now fifth level. Some DMs love that and it's the Bible to them. Some DMs do not like that and they hate it. So,
right. I mean, when you look at it, I mean, I know when you go OSR and you look at something like this Magic User Table 1, I mean, this is, I think a lot of people in the old school have kind of a chip on their shoulder, like, I earned it. I earned that
that's how
eighth
I feel.
level magic user,
That's how I
the
am old school. And yeah,
right.
that's exactly 100% how I feel.
Right, and they earned every doggone 136,000 experience points that they got, and they're going to hold your feet to the fire if you're just going to try to willy nilly give away levels to people. That doesn't seem right. So yeah, I mean it's a different way of looking at things. So the impetus for what I was looking at here, I started playing a few years ago. I started playing Mutant Epoch, and this system really shocked me because it was the first system that I'd ever seen with experience points this low. And you can see here it goes 0, 60, 130, 215, 320. And the difference, I think, between this system and what you're looking at really in fast is imagine playing OSR D&D, getting the experience that you get in that, and then translating it to this. So instead of needing 1,215 experience points, you would only need 60, but you're getting the same amount of experience you would get in D&D. So to get to 20th level is nothing. That's like getting to 5th with the
Right.
kind of experience that you got in this system. So it flew up incredibly fast. And I know one of the things you've talked about in my system when we played it was we just added a 0, which is what you've talked about doing the same thing with fast. The only difference here is I don't think the mechanic is set to limit the amount of experience you get per monster, where I think in fast it does limit it a lot more. So you're never gonna get 60,000 a monster or something like that if they're these big things. But that's where I initially saw this, and I really enjoyed going up quickly and getting all these perks and bonuses and the rank matrix that Mutant Epoch gave you. And I thought that was so good for play, especially for someone old like me who doesn't have. I'm not in high school anymore. I don't play every night for 5 hours, and I can just gear through 1,000,000 experience points. I don't have that opportunity anymore. So seeing having the ability to go up in levels, I thought was important. And I thought it was also important because it helped you learn my system in fast if you went up levels. Now here's the fast chart. We go 0, 25, 125, 250. Now obviously it's a little bit different in the way we do it. And then we've also got what you don't like, some of your players don't like. That is, once you get to the next level, you lose any extra experience you have in that adventure. So if you got 75 experience, but you only had 0 and you went to first level, you stop at 25, that 50 that you had is gone. Yeah. And then the next adventure, you start at base 25 again and have to work up. And we've talked a lot of different ways to mitigate that if people have a really hard time with it. And that's something you'll bring into this, but that's why I did my system the way it is and why it goes up so quickly. But why don't we talk about some of the problems you've had or some of the issues you've had at your gaming table? How?
There's no two ways about it. The experience points system that you set up, it works, and it works good, and it works by the numbers. There's no problems with the rate of progression. It's a very solid system. But I think what game masters need to do as they are approaching any fast game is they need to think about what they're doing and what kind of game are they adapting another game too fast. If so, what is that original game's experience point system looking like? And with everything, a game master, with everything that has to do with fast, a game master needs to be mindful that the number one rule is to make the system work for them and their table, and that it's okay to change things if they need to alter something here or there to suit their table, and their plans a little bit better, what they want to do. And there's no problems with fast if you change something up here or there. The stuff just slots together like Legos. This is no different than the magic table. This is no different than the character generation thing. It's all Legos together, and if you need to change things for your particular group, it's real suitable for that. Now, the problem that I ran into, which was not a problem from 13th Warlock's perspective as the game master, was that it's designed, like you said, so that characters have a fairly rapid progression through the early levels, but not so much that they skip levels. You want them to have that incremental increase, because if they jump from level 1 to level 2, they get an increase. Level 2 to level 3, now they get a second increase. If they're just jumping from level 1 to level 4, it doesn't seem like they've got 3 levels of progression. It seems like they got 1 level of progression with a whole bunch of crap in it. Yeah. So, it's important for them to progress at that pace. But if you're not using that initial, you meet this criteria of the adventure, so you go up in level. You meet this criteria of the adventure, so you can go up in level. If you're not doing that, if you're awarding experience points, you're going to encounter times where you go over that experience point limit. Sure. They're at first level and they have 25 experience points and they earn 110 experience points, which now puts them at 135 total, but the cap's 125. So now they lose 10 experience points. My players, and I don't think they're unreasonable in this, multiple, I got it from multiple players. It's not like I had one bad seed that was just bitching. Multiple players were like, I earned this experience and I won it. You've now taken away something from me. And from a game master's perspective, you can say, well, listen, we're playing for the story. We're playing, you still got your level, you still got something. But their perspective is I didn't get everything that I worked for and that I earned. It's a valid complaint. I ended up, when we really addressed it, because one player was really bent out of shape about it. And so I really addressed it. Our players were at 5th level, and that was our highest level player. And you can also say, well, just give, if you're at 1st level and everybody's at 1st level and you do the adventure, just don't give them more than 100 experience points so they don't pass that. That works until you start adding characters in,
Right.
and
With
now they're coming in at
varying levels. Yeah.
right. So what I did at 4th level, at 5th level, and I actually pushed it back to 4th. At 5th level, I said, listen, you can start carrying over experience points as long as it doesn't cap you over the next level. So, instead of you hit that 1,000 mark and you stop, if you went over 50, if you went over 100 experience points, you can keep that 1,100 and start working towards that 2,000. And they seemed like they were happy with that, and it solved all the problems at my table. And now things work fine.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I've said a lot of different things about it. One of the things that I talked about, I think, when people have talked about it, not carrying that over, I think one of my caveats was, look, by the time you're 7th level, you might have lost 750 experience points. But at that point, it doesn't really matter because the intervals are so big that by the time you hit 8th, you're probably not really concerned about that 750.
Yeah.
And that's a high number to me, but let's say that is the number. But you're right. When you have a party, and this is one of the reasons that I capped everything too, because I had this very vivid memory of going through against the Giants. And I just gotten the Unearthed Arcana. My friend Mark's running me through it with some of my old characters. They were very high level. And I got the Unearthed Arcana. I made a barbarian. And he just basically sat in the back of the adventure, did nothing. But every time we got experience, he would get experience. And the next, by the end of it, by Demon Web Pits, he was, a 13th to 14th level barbarian. And he'd never swung a sword, because he was just an experience leech. So to me, that was getting a lot of experience that he didn't, because he was just flying up levels, because he would get 50,000 or something. And all of a sudden he goes from 1st to 4th and barbarian. That's what I wanted to go against here, which is why I limited it. So, but you're right. If you're a 5th level party and they're generating 1,200 experience per adventure, and you have a 0 level come in, you just blew up 5 levels in one adventure, unless you can find a way to either cap it or put it in a bank and say you can hold on to it, but you can only go up 1 level at a time.
Yeah.
And one level of session, let's say, until you're eventually caught up with the rest of the party, or it equals out. Yeah. Any of those things work for me. Again, I designed the system because I wanted people to have fun and go up quickly, but no system is perfect. So modify it at your table. I think you did a great job with that, Hal, because it's funny because you said, hey, I didn't design it, Scott did. And all of a sudden one of your players is coming at me like, hey, why are you taking my experience? I'm like, what? Who are you? Yeah, it was one of those things. Yeah. So it's just funny. But yeah, you just have to know that you're going to run into some little problems, and you're going to have to find a way to mitigate that. Even if it's having an experience bank that they can draw from and just limit them 1 level a session, or like you said, start at 500. At 500, you can start carrying stuff over, but not until then. Any of those things work. But eventually, like I said, by 5th, 6th level, you're gonna these problems won't really exist.
No, they
for the
don't.
most part.
And I tell you, I think if I had to do it over again, if for my next group that I run, and I am going to put a 0 in the back of every one of those numbers.
Yeah.
And I'm going to let them start carrying over experience points. And I'm going to use 1E AT&D rules, where you can earn experience points all the way up to 1 point away from the next level. So I'm going to incorporate that. I'm going to put the 0 at the end. Of course, I'll have to modify the amount of experience points I give away for killing monsters and things like that, which is fine. But
But
I'm
that's
definitely
your accounting as a DM. You've decided to do.
yes,
If you wanted, because if you do add the 0, you're right. You're going to run into problems with experience from the
exactly,
monsters. You're going to have to up those too. So
exactly. Yeah, so I
yeah,
know going into it, by doing this, yeah, it's going to be more legwork for me. But I think that the players that are sitting around my particular table, are more satisfied. They want to hear, "Oh, okay, you earned 500 experience points tonight
mhm,
versus you earned 50 experience points." Like
right,
that really going to put a smile on their face. You and I, as game designers and longtime game masters, know it is what it is. The numbers are just the numbers, and
right,
I mean, honestly, it doesn't even matter what level they are. At first level, you fight challenges that are going to challenge you. At 10th level, you're going to have that same challenge. The monsters are bigger, you're bigger, but it's the same deal.
right.
It's just a different face and description on the monster. But from the player's perspective, I think that is more important. They can't lose experience. They get bent out of shape. They feel like you're taking something away from them.
Right.
And really to fix the problem and to put the smile on their faces, it's an easy fix, a really easy fix.
Yeah, and it's funny how people get definitely do get caught up in the overall concept of numbers, 500
Yeah,
experience versus 50
yeah,
experience. And then you're talking about, I know you've played games, I don't think your favorite games, but where you're skill based or something like that, where you might get 3 skill points.
yeah,
And so you can take that and it's all percentile. So you can take your firearms up to 66 from 65, with percentage. So I mean, it's the way you have to look at the game. Every game's a little bit different, but yeah, that's
yeah,
definitely something that you see, and it gets in people's heads where it just stuff hits differently. And so I can definitely see that. But again, I wouldn't want to mess with doing all the monsters. But if that's something that you want to do to up the experience, that's totally at the whim of the game master.
yeah. I
Yeah,
think I might actually put together a little chart that I get. See, I'm doing Star Frontiers,
that's right.
and that experience point system is complete. That's a skill based. You
Yeah,
got
still
a certain amount of experience points, and then you invested that experience points, and your skills went up. There was no
yeah,
levels per se in Star
uh,
Frontiers. Only the skills went up in level. Um, so I have kind of carte blanche with how I want to do experience points and level progression with through fast, and I have the experience points table as a guideline. But you can adapt other things, and I also want to talk about this with any game masters that are running campaigns in fast. Like if you have an idea that you want to reward your players at the table for doing certain things, like you don't want a hack and slash fest. You want to encourage them to think through problems, come up with ideas, not always hit everything with a sword. Then you can put experience points rewards out there for clever ideas or coming up with alternative of avoiding violence, things like that. Much like they had in the Palladium system, where there was a ranking of experience points where you got experience points for everything from using skills to boneheaded ideas to ideas that were life saving people's lives and stuff.
it's kind
So
of yeah, I mean, it's an interesting system. I know you and I have talked about it. If you do a system like this, or you have a good way of ranking and stuff like that, it would be great to add it into one of our compendiums,
yeah.
because I think it would make sense to allow DMs to kind of look at your view of what you can get. Because I know I've said, when you're playing it, I think just for sitting down at a table, you get 100 experience points in fast. And well, that would take you almost a level each time. That's my opinion. So, and again, yeah, when I joined, when I did the system, I was hoping that after 3 adventures, you would be 3rd level. That's my hope, and maybe even after 4 adventures you'd be 4th. Then things would start to slow down, but I wanted to get you to that 3rd level, which I think is an important level. And because there's so much that happens at 3rd, you get to start using medium magic, those type of things. But that's one of the things that you have an issue with the system, and you can see it up here in front of us if you can read it on 3rd level what you get. And 3rd level gives you access to 3rd level fated traits, but you don't get a faded trait until 4th. Now, this is something that you don't like, Hal. So tell me, when you looked at the system, that was one of your biggest gripes,
Yeah.
and how you would switch it out. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I forget the details of it, but yeah, it's always been in my crawl that you can unlock 3rd level faded traits at 3rd level, but you actually can't possibly get a 3rd level faded trait until 4th level.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would juggle things around on that bonus table, where that's, once again, if I started things from scratch, I would definitely revamp that to the first 4 levels, so that I would maybe swap up the skills with the faded trait, so that at 3rd level they got that second faded trait where they could pick something. If they wanted to get 3rd level faded traits at 3rd level, that would be available to them. But I mean, that's a minor thing, in the grand scheme of the experience points table, which is a pretty elegant table, and it makes sense with the progression and where the characters and how they're progressing. We talked about we know that they max out their primary skills, they max out their secondary skills fairly early on, but with the supplemental rule that came out in the compendium,
Continue.
where now those skills spill over to the attributes and continue to raise them up, that's a good thing for them, because now you don't feel like you're earning something, but you don't get it. You continually advance. Uh,
Right.
I think using that system for a few games, what I would do would change. It's too late for me to do it now because I already started feeding my players and I can't take the food away. But what I would do is I'd give them the point two, the remainder two, for primary skills that increase, that they get points in. But for the secondary skills that cap at 7, I would only give them a remainder 1.
Interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good. That No, that makes sense. And it's one of the things that I've seen, because I'm currently in a Middle Earth campaign that we just started, and I'm using the new character sheets, which go through a progression of bonuses, basically, because the base sheet for the base game would allow you to put all your bonuses and everything into your bottom line skill, whatever that is. So even at 2nd level, you might max the skill out, right?
Yeah.
Because all your bonuses are in there. But with the new sheet, it bumps, really maximizing skills almost to 6th or 7th level. So it slows that down a lot, because you're looking really just at that raw skill, and all the bonuses are broken up, be it a faded trait, a magic bonus, an attribute bonus, whatever takes you to the true skill. So that's been a huge difference as well. You're not getting those points as fast, because it takes you that much longer to take that 6 to a 9 or that 4 to a 7 with your base rolls, because there's nothing else in that remainder, or in that raw skill. So
Yeah.
that's been a big change to the system, for sure.
What's nice is that, and I love this about Fast. And if you run a game in Fast, I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's Fast D&D, if it's pure Fast out of the book, if it's Star Frontiers Fast, whatever lesson you learn, and every game master and player learns a lesson when they're playing a game. Whatever lesson you learn, you can take that into the next game,
Yeah.
a mechanic wise, whereas if we were doing a regular Star Frontiers game, and now next week we're going to play some Mutant Crawl Classic stuff, it's two totally different systems. Whatever I learned in Star Frontiers is not applicable in Mutant Crawl Classic, and chances are, in 2 or 3 weeks, by the time I get back to Star Frontiers, I'm going to forget what the hell I learned the first time. I'm going to repeat the problem. But with
Right.
Fast, it's the same system. It works the same. There's going to be tweakings from one system to the other as far as, what skills you might have, what gear does different things and whatnot. But you can take, if you're like, hey, you know what, this experience system worked real good for me in Star Frontiers Fast, I think when I run Gammalytic Age, I'm going to use the same lessons that I learned in Star Frontiers Fast. I'm going to use in Gammalytic Age. I'm going to use these same experience points charts. I'm going to do the same experience points awards. I love that. I absolutely love it because I don't have to learn things 2 and 3 times.
Well, and I think even more important, your players don't have to learn stuff 2 or 3 times.
Exactly.
Like that's the one thing when I looked at this system, when I created this system, was I just looked at this inundation of shelves with all these incredible games that spanned 40 years of time, and thought to myself, I can never play them because you can never get a buy-in from so many people to learn a new system that might be antiquated or outdated or weird or whatever. Even if it's a great system, they just always want to go back to D&D or something like that. So it's so hard to convince people to do that. So if you have a system that you can just take with you and all your players know it, bang, it's a new, it's so much easier to have that happen. And it's really funny to me. I designed the system. We did a lot of play testing on it, but I play this system every week. And even now, it's like I always take notes, because whatever new system, whatever new game you're in, there's always some kind of wrinkle that game might add that was never in your head if you were just looking D&D wise or Star Frontier wise. I look at Middle Earth and it's like, oh, that's neat. Or I look at Conan and that's neat, or whatever these things are. And I'm like, that just needs to be brought in. And that's how I get these compendiums, because I play it so much, and it constantly is, there's little things that you would never think about when you're in the core system and you're like, we got it, the book's done. And it's like, no, the book's never done, because the story is never done, and the game always evolves and gives you these little tweaks that just make it that much better every time you play.
Agreed. We're almost at our half an hour mark. Is there anything we need to touch on before we close up? Did we miss anything?
I don't think so. I mean, the most interesting thing to me about this experience table is, for you and me and anybody else that might be playing it. So in the compendium, there is level 11 to 20, right? And I've in the game thus far, in all the testing and all the adventures and all the campaigns I've done, no one's ever gotten above 8. So I'm really excited to see, like, that's not even finishing. Like, there are 2 more levels in this chart. I'm really interested to see if anybody ever makes it to 11th, 12th, 13th level, when you start getting master classes and really cool things in the new bonus system too. And I don't know if your Star Frontiers will make it that. Maybe if you do all of Alternus, all 3 of those.
Well, we're still on SF0, and my guy.
I know, that's what I'm saying. You could. I think you could do it. Yeah. So it's possible. But I'm excited to see what people say when that starts getting played, because obviously you can make those rules and do the things for it, but unless campaigns are going on within the course of it, you don't get a lot of good feedback that might be, oh, this needs tweaked, or this needs tweaked, or this is a good idea, or this is something that we saw in the adventure. So it'll be interesting experience wise to see when people hit that, or if they do. Yeah.
If I follow along with that progression, that 11 through don't change it all up. Which is okay. If you're a game master out there, I said it before, I'm going to say it again. Change this stuff up. If you want to do something different, you have an idea, change it up. Scott's not going to lose sleep at night over it. He might lose a little bit of sleep, but not a lot of sleep. He's not going to lose. It was designed so that a game master can tell their own stories and make their own world, and have the freedom to do that in a system that makes sense and works. And that's what Fast is at the core.
Yeah. And I think experience wise, another one of the reasons I designed it in the fashion that I did, just overall in the system, was that everyone loves in D&D the sweet spot, even DMs, players alike, of maybe, 5th to 8th, right? And then the system starts to break after it. Like, there's just too many hit points you got to go through, too many too many things, too many additions. And that's when I looked at the system, I really looked at it experience wise and thought, I want a level 14 character to play just as easily for the DM and the player as a level 4. So I never want the characters to be too big or inundated to be able to be played. And that's one of the most important building blocks when I designed this was playability throughout the career of the characters, both for DM and players. And the DM never gets like, I just can't design, I can't make monsters or NPCs that are tough enough to take these characters on. No, you will, and it's very easy to do, and it still be quick at your table for the combats. That was my design. I think the experience system does that.
Most definitely. That's all I got.
All right.
30 minutes.
All right. Well, as always, thanks for coming by, and hopefully we've talked to you a little bit about FAST and why the experience system works, or how you can customize it at your table. And otherwise, from me, as always, great gaming, and from Hal,
be good.
All right. See y'all later.